Adding a set of chains to your barbell when doing the squat, bench press, or deadlift isn't just a great way for you to look more hardcore and intense for your impromptu Instagram photo shoot. Believe it or not, as with anything inside the gym, if you're doing it right, it's got a clear purpose. Unfortunately, I see a lot of guys dicking up the setup for their chain work, and I want to set the record straight. So, for today's video, not only am I going to hook you up with a kick-ass Flex Friday routine that will get you stacked, jacked, ripped, powerful, and full of ass-kicking capabilities, I'm going to tell you exactly how you need to start implementing chains so that you can build a more powerful and explosive core lift, and not just the bench press, but the squat and deadlift as well. Happy Flex Friday, fellas. Let's get started. What's up, meatheads? Coach MANdler here, Team Swole Patrol. Before we get into today's Flex Friday routine, I want to talk with you very briefly about how to properly implement chains into your core lift of the day. Now, whenever we're talking about chains, we need to understand the purpose in general. The chains, they're used as a source of accommodated resistance and take advantage of what many power lifters refer to as the contrast method or contrast training. The contrast comes from the sense that, let's say when we're bench pressing, at the bottom the chains are going to gather up, so they're not loaded onto the weight that you're actually holding. But when you reverse that and press the weight, when you have more mechanical advantage towards the top, you're picking up those chains. So there's a great contrast from the bottom to the top, and I need for you to understand that, because a lot of the chains and the setups that people have with them these days are completely dicked up, and it's not allowing them to take full advantage of what you should be able to take advantage of when properly putting chains on with your core lift. With that in mind, you need to understand that when setting up your chains, you need to make sure that you have the greatest contrast from the bottom to the top of the lift as possible. So what you want to do is, ideally, instead of having those chains that have the big links moved all the way up to the actual collar where it's actually connected, I think Perform Better has them, maybe not. But nevertheless, those aren't the chains you want. Ideally, you want to have those thick 1 pound link chains and have a connector chain that allows you to adjust depending on your arm length for the bench press, so that you can have the greatest contrast possible from the bottom to the top at lockout. Doing this, making sure that at the bottom you only have maybe 1 or 2 links loaded, to at the top having maybe just 1 or 2 links piled on the bottom, will yield the greatest advantage when using these chains, because that's going to have the greatest contrast. That's why I'm not a fan of those chain setups that have just the big links moved all the way up and connected to the actual collar that slides on to the barbell. So just remember, whenever you're setting the chains up, make sure you have the greatest contrast in the amount of weight that you're loading with the chains from the bottom to at lockout. The greater contrast you have, the more advantage you have of taking with the chains in the first place. And one last tip in regards to your setup, make sure that when you're at lockout, you don't have that last link or 2 loaded and have it swinging all over and shit. That's not the purpose of using these chains. Remember, the purpose is to have the greatest contrast from the bottom of the lift, where you have less mechanical advantage, to the top of the lift where you have more mechanical advantage and can lift more weight. That's the goal here. We're trying to teach you to accelerate through the movement, overload the top where you have more mechanical advantage, and ideally help you be able to fight through a sticking point in your bench, squat, or deadlift. Hopefully all that makes sense. If you have any further questions that I might not have touched on, be sure to leave that question in the comment section below. Now, enough talking about it, let's be about it. Let's get to today's kick-ass Flex Friday routine. thanks for checking out today's video. Listen, if you dig the type of training that you see in this video, the idea of being able to strip your shirt off at the beach or the pool and be able to look like a beast, get the ladies all hot and bothered, but be able to match that up with the ability to lift some big ass bar bending weights and perform some pretty badass athletic shit, then do yourself a favor right now and pick up your free week's worth of my performance bodybuilding workouts by clicking on this image right here. When you do that, not only will you get free access to that free week of training, but also my plug and chug workout builder that'll teach you everything you need to know about performance bodybuilding. Appreciate your time, guys. Have a good one. MANdler out.